Good afternoon, everyone. How you going? Welcome to this live broadcast that we're doing down here in Melbourne. And it's everyone's business, really, because there are so many fruits and fruits that we call vegetables that are fruits. One of our favourite ones, of course, tomato, which get affected by a particular insect, and that is the background of this video. We have a wonderful Queensland fruitfly coordinator who I'm going to introduce you to, and they are going to walk us through some of the things that we can do to manage fruit fly. The story being that there has been some fruit fly detection down here in Melbourne, and like anything, prevention is way better than cure. The last thing we want is for fruit fly to get a stranglehold here in Victoria, as it has in other states. So come with me. I'm going to take you in to meet a couple of people, and we're going to do a few simple activities that you can do to be part of the prevention and the control so that it doesn't get out of control. So here we go. All right, here we go. There's a couple of people here. Now, you might know Kirsty here, Kirsty Bishop-Fox from
Sustainability Pathways.
And Kirsty's just picking up some of this fruit, but we'll get the story behind that. And with her, let me give you the microphone. Bron,
hi, Cluster.
How are you? Can you give us a bit of a background of what your role is and what your title is?
Sure. So we've got a project in the Yarra Valley designed to help the fruit growers stay fruit fly free. But in effect, that helps all the backyard gardeners stay fruit fly free as well. Queensland fruit fly is fairly new to our region. We first had fruit fly in the Yarra Valley in 2018. And my role as part of the awareness project that we're running in the Yarra Valley is to minimise that. So I'm here today to talk to Kirsty, and we're going to look at picking up all these plums because ideally we should have never let them fall. But this is a typical fruit growing backyard, because Kirsty loves to produce lots of stuff, and life gets busy, we know. So now that the fruit fly threat is really real, it's not too far from here, we want to look at what Kirsty can do in her garden, and we're going to go around and have a look at all of the things she produces, and we're going to have a short-term and a long-term plan.
Now, Bron, here's an interesting one. Nev Sweeney from Permaculture Sydney West has just said picking up fruit drop is required in New South Wales by law every 3 days.
I would encourage never let it fall.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually take that long for that larvae in the infested fruit to go from the fruit to the ground. Like, I'm talking maybe a minute, maybe 5 minutes. So every 3 days is probably not often enough if you're serious about protecting against fruit fly.
Yeah, right.
So we actually want to prevent that larvae getting to the ground to complete its life cycle. And we can control it. So harvesting is the key.
Yep. Okay, now just a quick check, everyone. Can you hear us loud and clear? We've got the roving microphone there for Kirsty and Bron so that they can be loud and clear. And I've got my one for any questions and to repeat any comments. Yep, and he said we're all good. All right, so onward we shall.
Awesome. Well, plum trees, Kirsty, they're a host of fruit fly. And you often don't see the little sting, the part where she lays her egg. So it's really important that you get out here and harvest them early. If Queensland fruit fly is an issue in your area, which it is, ideally the long-term plan is that we want to bring this plum tree back down to harvestable height. So how tall can you reach? No taller than that, right? Because eventually we might be getting this netted if fruit fly is going to become a worse problem.
Okay. Because there's no way we can net it now.
No way.
No, exactly. I mean, look at it. That's sort of like, that's a good 3.5 meters.
Yep. So the other idea when you do prune it, and when we do bring that back down in winter, see these uprights? When you prune a tree in winter, a lot of these branches are going to be uprights. Now they're going to be vegetative growth. And we want to actually bring them down to the 45 degree or the horizontal and encourage those buds on that branch to be fruit producing buds. That's why espalier is so good, because it just tells the tree fruit, 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 and it forgets to concentrate on growing too big and ridiculously high.
Yeah.
So if you remember on the 45, you can use weights, you can use wires, you can use tennis balls in stockings, anything to bring the vigour out of your fruit trees. So I noticed you got a pomegranate tree up here too.
I'm so excited. It's going to be our biggest harvest ever.
Oh, it's amazing. I've never seen a pomegranate in Melbourne with so many pomegranates.
Oh, really? It's thrived on neglect.
So pomegranates could also host fruit flies.
Oh. Even though it's a really tough, like I know they like peaches because it's soft, but this is hard.
They will find a way.
Right.
So there might be a part of the pomegranate life cycle that's too green for it to penetrate. But as that starts to crack open and as that starts to soften and get that nice red blush about it, it's definitely a fruit fly host. Mm-hmm. And I can spot another one over here.
Oh, hang on.
Locust trees.
Oh.
So locust trees are usually the first thing out of spring that Queensland fruit fly will start to reproduce inside. It's the perfect host tree. There's obviously no fruit on it now. But about October, November, a locust will start to fruit.
It's the first fruit I get of the season. First fruit of the season.
Yeah.
It's why I got it.
So the hibernating female Queensland fruit fly will come out of its warm, dry place and it will go straight to the locust tree to lay its eggs. And from there, the life cycle continues.
And isn't that interesting? Because, you know, most people will think about their traditional fruit trees, their plums, their apricots, their nectarines, you know, things like that. Yet the real problem has become many months, has sown its roots many months earlier when people aren't even thinking about.
That's right. It's not warm enough. Warm enough for a barbecue yet.
Yeah.
So
November,
If it's not warm enough for a barbecue, it's hard to think about fruit fly.
Yeah.
And Kirsty, you've got street trees over here that are pears, ornamental pears.
Yes.
If they get fruit on them, they're a host as well. So it will go from the locusts to the pears, over to the plums, and then it'll go through to your backyard with all of your other stuff. So
right.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because ornamental pears became such a big landscape design feature. People using them as screens and like these quick growing, buy them at the wholesaler with 4 meters already advanced. But that means they prepare fruit that straight away almost.
Not edible fruit that we would eat, but it's still enough for a fruit fly to host its young inside of, and for them to complete that life cycle, drop to the ground, and then you've got a family of fruit fly all able to breed again. So a fruit fly generation can last anywhere between, say, 24 to 28 days in the warmer regions. It can take 43, 45 days down here. But in that lifetime, that fruit fly that's laid those eggs in the start, she can lay up to 2,000 eggs in a season. So you multiply this out. This is why it's so exponential.
And so critical that...
Get the one. If you find one, there's 10 more out there for sure.
Yeah.
So if you get one, that's 2,000 less, plus all of her daughters.
Yeah.
It's like rabbits.
Yeah.
Worse.
Yeah.
Worse than rabbits. Rabbits don't eat my fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Anything else here, or shall we go around the back?
Mulberry. It'll get into mulberries. You've got strawberries near your front door. Anything you really like to eat as a fruit fly like as well. You've got citrus there. When that's big enough, all of your citrus will become a host fruit as well. Persimmon's a host. Probably not while it's so green, but when it starts to get riper and that colour change happens, that orange through to that golden rich orange, that's when fruit fly will be a host, or persimmons will be a host of fruit fly. And persimmons have the ability to get really tall and hard to net. So as far as the jobs that Kirsty might do out here, she might look at remembering to do the locust harvest, and she could hang a fruit fly trap in the locust tree to then get a gauge on what fruit fly are doing for the season down here. We're going to minimise the height of your pomegranate, minimise the height of your plum tree, and then make sure you prune your persimmon to keep it low. So you're going to have a mixture of management and a mixture of protection, just depending on what your knowledge of fruit fly is in the area.
And what about, I've got strawberries right at my front door.
Yum.
Yeah, I know.
The
kids can come home and they can, look, there's some ready to go. I've been away for a few days, so I don't know if there's any that might have been...
there's a beautiful one under there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick it, by all means do.
So I'd be looking at taking the geraniums back, maybe putting some fruit fly netting. Yum. Maybe putting some fruit fly netting across here. And the beautiful part about the fruit fly netting is it will stop your other bugs getting in that love to get into strawberries as well.
Yeah, great.
So it's a dual purpose with netting.
What about the pollination?
Pollination of strawberries, I reckon there'd be enough pollinators getting ants and wind pollination getting in underneath strawberries. So strawberries, raspberries, tomatoes, buzz pollinated.
Mm-hmm.
It is good to get bees in, honeybees as well, but I reckon we could concentrate on getting that pollination happening under the net in different ways. Get the kids in there with a toothbrush.
A toothbrush? Tell me how that would work.
Just cross-pollinating, but that's
Right.
that's a lot of energy.
I see.
But that is one of the problems. Netting is an inconvenience. It's hard to do. It's expensive to set up. It's annoying. You don't get your pollination necessarily happening as well as what it could be underneath. That's why prevention is better than cure. If we don't have this problem, we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So we're just in that really critical position right now that with so low numbers, we can actually get in there and we can get on top of this problem. We've got some fruit fly traps out the back, some fruit fly baiting techniques out the back. We can teach you how to do that. If your neighbours are in on it, this whole region could be fruit fly free.
And that, I think, everybody, is the key comment. If we, fruit fly for me is fruit fly for you. And we've all got to look after it. It's everyone's business. It's a collective.
Yeah.
Because if I drop the ball, then you won't get good fruit, regardless of what you do.
That's right. And despite all Kirsty's really awesome efforts, if there's fruit fly breeding in the lemon tree next door, it makes Kirsty's efforts wasted.
Yeah.
Not to mention all that fruit production wasted.
Yeah. Now, just while we're here, before we move around, so Ray Clark has said, so the top tip is to keep the fruit tree just high enough to harvest easily.
Yeah. And just produce what you could consume. Mm-hmm. There's no need to produce anymore. So consume means trade, use, cook. Yep. It's no point growing fruit for it to fall on the ground.
If you've jammed and bottled and you can't give it away, that's too much. So fair?
Falling on the ground is too much.
Yeah,
because you obviously didn't want it.
Well, that was partly the birds that did that.
Yes.
The birds admittedly got a few more plums. Actually, they got more plums than we did. We didn't get many this year.
Yeah, we do have a lot of bird problems in Melbourne.
We used to have a really good relationship. The birds would take the top and we would take the bottom. Lasted about 2 years, and now they've decided that they want a different arrangement.
They told their friends.
Shifted the contract.
Yeah, but they certainly did, and I had no recourse. It was the way it is. I either get them green or I don't.
So the bird pressure can also vary according to what's happening in the world. So all around Australia, around Victoria, we sometimes get some really, I would call them bad seasons with a lot of bird pressure. But if there's fruit in the wild for them, or if there's other places that they would like to be, like in the wild or further north, they don't necessarily come down here. So Melbourne can have a hit and miss with birds in different seasons.
Well, we had a hit this season.
Yes.
I had a hit this season.
It must mean that they're hungry somewhere else.
All right.
Righto.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Got any questions for me along the way?
Oh, Kirsty, just while we're here, we sort of got started and I was going to ask you, keep walking.
Yeah, okay.
I just wanted to acknowledge what country we were on here. And I kind of got waylaid when we looked straight into the bucket and I didn't get to ask you.
We're on Wurundjeri country right here. I was part of the Kulin Nation. And let's pay respect to our elders, past, present, and emerging, because caring for country is a really important part of something everyone should do. We were at the Botanic Gardens yesterday, and didn't we have an amazing talk on being custodians of the land, not just the land that you're on, but the whole planet.
Yeah, and I mean, this fruit, as Bron's mentioned, I mean, this fruit, owning fruit is a responsibility. Growing fruit is a responsibility. And when we're all responsible and we look after them like a totem responsibility, like it's not just, oh yeah, I just grew it and wasn't it good. I had a good season, then a bad season, then an in-between season. Like fruit fly management is every season.
Yes. And every season to come. Like it's not likely to leave Melbourne now. It's acclimatized, it's in. So we need to protect what we can. And that is protect producing backyards, producing commercial enterprises. And we need to mitigate that influx of that fruit fly so that we don't have that strong reliance on a chemical treatment and things like that.
Because as you're going to talk about later, when you've got your little brochure there, once we start to rely on the chemical treatments, we knock out all the other efforts we put in to build biodiversity. But we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So there are some targeted options. I wanted to point out in Kirsty's backyard, this is the peach tree.
Super dwarf peach tree.
Yeah.
It's a super dwarf peach tree. It's as high as it gets. And I've known Bron for some time. And she's talked to me about fruit fly. So I know a bit about it. And one day I sent her a photo. We actually got our peaches, and it was our biggest harvest. It would have been in 2018?
Yeah, 2018 is when we hit.
Yeah, and we had a couple of peaches. They were delicious, the perfect ripeness, like better than the stores. Like,
yeah.
You know, they were perfect. They were beautiful, and we had a really good one. And the kids were wanting something before dinner, like, let's cut into a peach. And the response I got was, ew, that's disgusting. We've got some photos, I think we'll be able to show them later on. And it was disgusting. It was like all these maggots going through. And I thought nothing of it. Well, I didn't think nothing of it. Let's just have another one. And we'll eat that one. And there was another one with more maggots in it. And I said, look, do you know what? We'll worry about this later on. We'll have something for dinner. And I thought I should send Bron an image. So I took her a photo. The kids had taken a video. And she said to me something that I didn't expect. And I said it because I sent her photos of friends and she would tell me what it was. And what she said to me was, can you come into the lab tomorrow? Bring all of it.
You were scared. Were you scared?
I don't know what I felt. I was not expecting. She wants me to come. I wonder why she wants me to do that. She DNA tested it. And we actually took them out and it took a few days to get the results back, didn't it?
No, because we were doing the DNA testing as a trial. It's a new project that AgVic's been working on, and I've had the privilege of being able to use it. I had the results in an hour and a half. So we smushed up the larvae, put it into the DNA test kit, and run it. And it's not that much different from people doing a PCR test on a COVID sample. That's the same technology. But because it was new for Queensland fruit fly, I then had to substantiate it and back it up.
That's right. The backup took a few days.
So I sent it into Agriculture Victoria, and they did further testing, and that can take a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But that instant result meant that we could go straight into action. Like, we need to go clean up your backyard. We need to go protect the rest of it. We need to tell everyone.
And look, the good thing was we did, and we didn't have any more findings of it until we didn't. So admittedly, I got complacent.
And it happens.
Yeah. So what can we do now?
Well, see this lovely shady tree that we're under?
An apricot tree. Now, I haven't got fruit off this for a couple of years, but when I did a couple of years ago, it was amazing. But tell me about it.
So if you're in Ascot Vale, Moonee Ponds, Kensington, Footscray, any of that space in there, I guarantee you probably would have had maggots in your apricots. About Christmas time or just after. I hear so many reports. So the fruit flies will come from your low bit, and they'll come over to your apricot tree, and then they'll go into your peach tree.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll just move to that next crop.
From crop to crop across the season.
Not fussy.
Yeah.
And that's how they get through that 9-10 month season. And then they'll move into citrus for the winter. Well, just before winter. And then she will hibernate over winter and then emerge later. So that's when the cycle starts again. So we want to even clean up at the end of the year.
So where does she hibernate?
She'll hibernate in any dry crack on the bark, under the eaves. She'll just keep herself nice and warm and dry, and she'll use as least amount of energy as possible. So then she can emerge next spring and she's ready to go.
Mm.
So yes, the cold, it does knock a few of them off, but not all of them. I think they're acclimatizing a little bit, and
like
our climate's
different, but the same thing. Like
seasonal.
It culls them, but not eradicates
doesn't
them.
eradicate them. So I think you need something like 5 continuous days of -3 degrees to actually kill fruit fly.
Yeah,
we don't get that anymore.
No, we don't.
No.
We don't get minus. Well, some areas might, but
Yarra
not
Valley maybe, but
yeah, not we don't get
not
minus.
this inner Yarra Valley.
Yeah.
Inner Yarra
That
Valley.
would
I'm
be-
making up words now.
Yarra Valley.
So should we look at your tomatoes next, because they're
Yes.
another host?
Yeah, well,
Let's
someone did
take us on a
mention
journey.
tomatoes earlier.
Definitely a host.
And Ben says, I remember crossing the Murray River as a kid in the 70s, the checkpoints for fruit flies.
Yeah.
Going
Why
down
did
into
they change?
Shepparton and
That changed because Northern Victoria had fruit fly. So it's no longer a feasible argument to say we need to check your fruit coming from New South Wales because there's already fruit fly here. We can't stop it. So I spoke to some people in up north when I was doing my training, and they said, "Oh, fruit fly's not here anymore because all those biosecurity people, they're not here anymore."
Oops.
Like, yeah, they're not here because there's so many fruit flies here now.
Yeah. The battles.
They've given
So
up on the.
Well, they haven't given up, but it was the cost feasibility study was done, and they couldn't no longer eradicate it feasibly. So it became a management issue, and that's part of my role, is to teach people in Victoria that this is now a management issue, and it's our responsibility to do it, and the government's not going to come and clean up your yard for you, like our parents would have had happen to them if they had fruit fly in that time.
Right.
But it's just not an option anymore.
Right.
For Queensland fruit fly.
Okay.
So Mediterranean fruit fly, on the other hand, totally different story.
Do we have that here in Victoria?
No.
And that's a good thing?
It's a good thing, and that's why it's called an exotic pest, and Agriculture Victoria are responsible for managing that. And that would mean that they would come onto your property and they would work with you, but you would have to do as you told.
That's right. I think you told me if I had medfly, they'd send the choppers.
Yeah. The SWAT team.
Yeah.
That is really important that we manage our statewide biosecurity, and that's the role and responsibility of Agriculture Victoria. But my project is here to tell you that Queensland fruit fly in Victoria is an owner, manager, tenant responsibility.
Well, I have a lot of tomatoes. They were planted before I went away, and they kind of started sprawling. I got really busy and thought, sprawling tomatoes, we can just harvest them. But you've made that change a bit, haven't you?
Yeah. Sprawling tomatoes are harder to net and harder to protect.
All right, let's go.
So let's go.
All right.
So I was just on that border crossing, Costa.
Yeah.
Heads up for Victorian citizens and travellers from Victoria. Do not go to South Australia with any fruit in your car.
Yeah.
Once upon a time,
Or Tasmania.
They check it there.
Yeah.
But once upon a time, if you go to the South Australian Victorian border and you had some tomatoes, for example, you could surrender them at the border. That's now no longer. South Australia are taking a zero tolerance approach. You will cop a fine. If you get to that border, it's like a $1,100 or $1,400 fine.
Wow.
So use the donation bins or the dump bins on the Victorian side. Better still, don't take them with you.
Yeah.
But don't arrive at the border with fruit fly host produce.
Yeah. And
Not
that's
worth
good
the
to
fine.
know, because, the only way, the cost, particularly to South Australia and their
Huge.
fruit industry, is massive, because they have a value add that they are fruit fly free, and what that means to their markets, their local market, the national market, and particularly the export market.
Yeah,
is
they go to
enormous.
those sensitive markets that don't have Queensland fruit fly in their country, and that's a privilege. It's an honour to be able to sell fruit into those countries. So let's look at tomatoes.
Yeah.
Liz and I got in here earlier and resurrected them from the sprawling state, and Liz is still working here now.
Hey, Liz.
Liz here, who's been a real champion helping me
Oh,
out.
look at all the
and right
tomatoes
out
she's
nowhere.
harvested.
We had to be a bit rough with them to get the netting around, because your volunteer plants and the unmanaged ones aren't going to stay contained in a little area, so some are going to fall off, but you're going to be able to make yourself some chutneys or sauces.
I can see green tomato relish coming up very,
Oh.
very soon, plus some tomatoes for dinner tonight. And when they came, the tomatoes, admittedly, it was a backyard that has been lovingly neglected. The tomatoes were down. Yeah, hold that up there. They weren't staked this morning, so you can see how they're along the ground there. We've still got some more to do, but for the purpose of showing you, it's good to have a bit of both. And so we've staked them up, which means, one, I can see them, they're easier to harvest, but two, we can net them properly. Was there a 3? Just checking.
We could make it 3. Well, I could talk about fruit fly all day.
Yeah.
Right. She can. She's not kidding.
So, Costa,
So-
get a close up of this netting.
Okay. Here we go, everyone.
This is a 2 mil by 2 mil aperture netting, and it's a veggie net. So it's insect proof. And it's not the 5 mil by 5 mil that we've all been told to put up to make it animal and wildlife friendly. So a 5 mil by 5 mil will not keep Queensland fruit fly out.
Yep.
It might distract them a little bit, but they'll soon find a way, because she gets pretty desperate to lay her eggs. Like, she tries really hard. So a 2 mil by 2 mil netting. This one's UV stabilized, so you can use it again, and I've even put it in my washing machine.
Yeah,
Because
right.
I had a 3 by 3 by 3 box net.
Yep.
And it was getting pretty dusty. So I took the twigs out of it and I stitched up a couple of little rips and I put it in the washing machine at the end of the season, and she's ready to go again.
Oh, nice.
I think my kids thought I was a bit crazy.
Oh, kids think that of mums. It doesn't matter what you do. They always think you're crazy. Well, mine too.
So this is a bit of a makeshift job we did. We got some star pickets, and this is 25 mil electrical conduit. And we've
6
used...
metre length?
Yeah,
Or
about the length of my
8/4.
car. It was only,
Yeah.
it was a little bit too long for my car,
Yeah.
but I just got it here.
Might have been 4. Oh, yeah, it's probably 6. Yeah,
But you can join them together.
Yeah.
Because that length
Yeah, it's got
there,
the bell end.
and you can, as long as you put a little screw in there
Yep.
with you, when you put your other skinnier end into here.
Yep.
Screw that and fix it. You could make double that length.
Yeah.
At home, I use farm poly, and I put it
high
over the
density
star
poly.
picket.
Yeah.
But that's out the back of my dad's shed, so I don't have to go shopping for that.
Bron lives on a farm, not quite the urban setup that we're managing here today.
So then when I was grabbing this netting, we saw these awesome clips,
There it is.
and those clips just popped onto that conduit. Fits like a glove, and that means you can take this netting on and off without compromising or putting any holes in the net.
Yeah.
Where can people get those from?
I got these from Hortiatech and Monbulk, but you could order them online. I've seen a crowd does do them in netting kits. But yeah, ask around.
What were they called again?
I don't know. I just call them clippy things.
Clippy things.
Clamps. Yeah. Netting clamps.
Netting clamps would be
Yeah.
probably a more technical term.
I think there are some that look a bit more like a peg. So you can get some that rather than just like a cuff that goes on,
Yeah,
you can
almost
get
like a
some
hair.
that are structured. Yeah, like
a
the,
hair clip.
I don't know the words for those hair
A
clips.
grip.
Yeah, so they come in like a peg-like one. So if you need to move them around, or if you're only temporarily doing these structures, if you get the clippy ones, they're very easy to
If
take on
someone's
and
selling
off.
netting, they're probably going to know what
Yeah.
you need. Yeah.
You can Google them.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Kirsty, just a tip on this. I think this star picket might actually catch on this netting.
Mhm.
So if you've
Uh-huh.
got some fabric offcuts, you could wrap that around there and protect those sharp edges.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
Yes.
You can cable ties.
Stop the rips.
Yes. I love cable ties. I use them in lots of places.
Mm.
And so the beauty about this netting, should we tell people what we found down the street?
Oh, yeah, here we go.
You tell us the street story.
Bron arrives and she's knocking on my door with this grin on her face. I'm like, she's happy to see me. No, she's been actually looking at the things on the side of my road. She said, there's a climbing frame. I think it might work. I need you to come down and pick it up with me. I'm like, okay, sure. So we went down, and it was great for me because I went down the street and Bron said, I'm definitely sure it's hard rubbish. I'm like, I know my street it is. And the lady came out. They've been there not for I don't know how long. I hadn't met her. So I got to meet Jess, who is very excited that the climbing frame is no longer hard rubbish anymore, but it is now helping us. And I couldn't quite see Bron's vision, and now it's in. I can. But can you tell us, Bron, and I think I can do, what the advantage of having this here is going to do?
Well, it's going to look good for a start. I think this is going to keep the netting off these low-growing tomatoes that we haven't trained yet. It's temporary. We haven't got enough star pickets with us today to finish this garden. So you can use this. You could move this because two of us lifted it okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to keep that as your netted area, you could cut this net, keep this as a netted enclosure for something else. I don't know. You probably rotate your gardens around a bit.
A little bit.
So that's an idea. You could have your lower growing vegetables. Like this netting is not going to keep just fruit fly off. It's going to keep all of your cabbage moth out of all of your green veggies, your green leafies. So
I certainly love the kale there.
yeah, I reckon that you could mix and match your garden. And now that it's in place, I reckon you're going to have the time and the inspiration to do it.
I am. But what I was actually Bron started asking me, what do I want? How do I want it? I'm kind of like, it's yours. And then Liz came in and said, oh, we're getting free reign. She got a bit excited. Now, I'm really happy with what's here, but you did throw a few other ideas around, which I liked as well too. I think it'd be interesting to share that for people who might have different setups and what they can do.
Yeah, if you'd like. So this kind of thing is not always to everyone's taste. It's not aesthetically everyone's vibe. I think it looks quite neat enough once you pull it down, and especially if you peg it and get a bit of tension. But there are other options. Like if you are permanently using one area as your bed, you know the kind of height of the plants you're going to be using. You can build a permanent structure. You can get a frame put in, something that looks quite nice, and you can actually have the netting tensioned along each of the square panels and put in properly, kind of in the same way you might do a screen door.
Yeah.
So you can actually do it like that. You can even make those panels openable like windows, things like that. So you can do ones that suit the aesthetic for what you want.
And almost more semi-permanent.
Yeah. So there's permanent setups, but you can also build things like this that are semi-permanent in the sense, like, say you take a structure like your little climbing frame, you can actually use clips, clamps, or other things to net it properly, but you can still shift that around your garden.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like that. It can be just one of your geodomes or any kind of frame.
The A-frame swing sets. How many?
Yep.
The
There you go.
A-frame swing sets. How many of those do you see on Hard Rubbish?
Oh, all the time.
Well,
and they're free.
Yeah, or if you've got one that you're no longer using, take the swings off, use it as your A-frame for your netting.
Yeah, and you can actually attach that netting on and just leave it on and shift the frame around as well. And it's customizable to how you want it to look. So it doesn't have to look, you don't have to do the hoop house thing. I find the hoops easy because it's very easy to slide netting on and off without it catching and ripping.
Compared to
It's
a
very
right
easy.
angle.
Whereas if I want to do a square structure, I'm probably going to do that for something more permanent where I'm not going to have to be shifting the netting on and off. I'm probably going to have that netting sandwiched into frames kind of in the same way you might do a screen door.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that.
So, Kirsty, I'm going to teach you about traps now.
Oh, please,
Because
please.
I know I've taught you in 2018, but I also forgive you because it was a lot of information. And it'd be really good if everyone else saw the traps, hey?
Okay.
Cool. Over here.
So Matthew said here, don't put the net on until pollination and fruit set.
It's touch and go. Tomatoes can self-pollinate.
Actually, you can just shake a tomato.
Yeah. For example, a peach tree, I would definitely put the net on after pollination. So once that fruit is set, while it's still small, if it's starting to get some size and any colour, people have reported that their green peaches have still been used as hosts for fruit fly. Like a month ago, there was fruit fly stings in this area, and that's what we're working on with our team. So a month ago, peaches a month ago were hard as cricket balls.
Rock, yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
say the area?
We're in Warrenwood Park Orchards area. So we know that there's fruit fly here. And from previous years, we also know there's fruit fly here. So it's really get that awareness out there, get people to put their fruit fly traps up and harvest their fruit.
So just a little recap for Leanne. This Leanne can be bought from your produce sort of
Stores,
store, and
hardwares.
this one was which mill was this again?
The conduit was 25 mil.
Sorry, the netting.
Oh, it's 2
mil.
mil netting. Kirsty's got the
mil
bag there
netting.
for you.
There you go. Oh, that's good. Yeah, the bag's good. That way you can
So
see.
if you can't get out to this organisation to get it, head into your hardware. They might be able to sell it to you off the roll. You can order net online. You can order little bags, so you can just put the bags over a few things.
Yes.
If you don't
Yeah.
want to do this whole structure, just make sure you keep the netting off of the fruit. Because if that netting is hard up against that fruit,
Yeah, she'll come
she'll
along and
still sting
and sting
and lay
through.
her egg
Yeah.
through that hole in the netting. So that's why I like structure. So bags are good. Use the structures. And you can even buy a 3 by 3 by 3 block netting. And some of them have doors. There's one we get from online. I think it's from a producer in Western Australia. He's got a zipper door. Which means you're going to go in and harvest more often, which is what we want to promote. And I think there is a locally Victorian made one, and it's got a tensioned double door. So you slide through the net that way.
Yeah.
But all the same, netting is better than no netting.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're not using any chemical.
Quite a few people mentioned that, you can cut the pipe and use the pipe as, that's particular. Yeah, PVC, you can slice the pipe and stick it over. So yeah, there's lots of more thrifty ways you can do it. But upcycle of using your offcuts and so on. So
and
thanks,
fit for
Matthew
purpose.
and
It's got to
Giovanni.
fit in your yard, and you've got to be able to get it up. Like Liz here today has done this, but I couldn't have done it on my own.
Yeah.
Would have poly pipe everywhere.
Yeah. All right, so here we go.
Do you want to have a look at the fruit fly there?
Someone did ask if they wanted to.
It's
have a
not the
little look.
best example, but see what you can capture.
I don't think I can get any closer. I don't think this doesn't zoom in. So that's about as good as I can get there, peeps.
I've got a really good idea. There's some net today. I've got a fruit fly in here somewhere.
Jeanette, it's an absolute pleasure between the. Oh, here we go.
It's just a bigger picture that you might be able to point out. So a Queensland fruit fly will have yellow shoulder pads. It will have a yellow stripe on each side of its back, and it will have this yellow triangle at the base of its back there. It's 7 or 8 mil long that way, and it's brown in colour, reddy brown colour. But those are the key characteristics: the shoulder pads, the GT stripes, and the yellow triangle. And it's that. I say it's that big, but it's really that small.
Yeah. So there you go. That's it there. It's only small.
Yeah.
Some more.
Oh, there's some
Here
more.
we go.
They'll probably show up better on the camera. No, it's sticky taped.
Oh, there you go. But you can see the size of it.
Yeah. So all of this information is available on the AgVic website, or you can have a look at the fruitflyYV.com.au website. That's the Yarra Valley specific
Okay.
website.
That's your.
On that Yarra Valley one, I've got all my links to all this useful information.
Oh, great.
So that can be helpful for people to check
So
out that
fruitfly
information.
YV.
Fruitfly free YV.
Oh, fruitfly free. Say that quickly, please. Fruitfly free YV.
I've done it for 4 years and I still stumble on it. So there's a range of commercially made traps that you can buy. I'd like to point out that there are some male fruit fly attracting traps and some others that are protein based that usually end up attracting the hungry females. Remember those 2,000 eggs I was talking to you about?
Yeah.
She needs that huge protein intake to sustain that level of productivity.
Yeah.
So she often goes for the protein. So that's a trap with a protein gel. And this is a trap here with a protein liquid. That's the protein down the bottom. We need to mix all that in, stir that up. So in this particular one, I've got protein in the bottom of this. She'll fly in those holes.
Oh, those holes. Yeah, right. Okay.
And then get stuck on that sticky trap.
Uh-huh.
Now, I love this sticky trap because people take photos of this and send it to me, and I've instantly got a scale and a reference and a clear background and a focused photo.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can see. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
You got your grid.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
on
a
that
fly.
one, there's a few bycatchers. This is a grey striped fly, and it likes the decomposing protein in there. And so does this island fly. See the pretty mottled wing pattern on those? And so they're not pests of fruit. They're just flies and bugs that are associated with decomposition. So the other protein is your fruition trap. And they've got a protein sachet and a fruit scented sachet. So this one's aiming at catching the fruit fly females, and there's a sticky card inside that. This one here is a male pheromone inside here, and it needs replacing every 3 months. So this one's going to attract the men from afar. So there's total range of commercially available traps, but I've got a DIY recipe here for you today.
Now we're talking.
So there's all the recipes. Again, you can get these instructions from my website.
All online.
And you can even get an instruction from the AgVic website as well.
There you go, anyone. If you can jump on and get it online, but if you want to do a screenshot, you're welcome to do a screenshot as well. Awesome.
So the key ingredients are a yeast extract. What else? Famous for Aussies.
Oh.
You can even use a beer extract if you want.
Oh, okay.
But a yeast.
Yep.
So it's that breakdown and those proteins that it's putting into that liquid. And then a couple of drops of the dishwashing liquid into that. That's all it needs to be.
Yep.
And that's going to break the surface tension on the top of that liquid so that when she goes in there, she drowns. And a bit of sugar to sweeten that up. Balance out the salt. So when you've mixed all of that up, pop it in your recycled PET bottle. Cut a few holes in the side as per. We haven't done this part yet.
Yep.
So a drill bit.
Yep.
Put it through, and then hang it in your tree. Oh, Kirsty's made one there. There you go.
So, I got a question for you. I always recommend a sort of combo of things, like hanging them one in the tree, but also hanging them around the boundary.
Yes.
Is that
Ideal.
Is that something you
Ideal.
recommend?
So I
that
would
you're
recommend a male fruit fly trap. I would recommend a protein-based fruit fly trap, and even your fruit-scented trap. So you can do that one down there, or there's an online recipe for orange juice and ammonia in a PET bottle. But I would have at least one of the three.
The three, yeah.
So there's the male one, the protein one, and the fruit-scented one. And I'd even have one at a friend's house a few k's down the road. So my grid in the Yarra Valley that I manage, we've got 254 traps. Some of them are on a 400-metre spacing, and others are on a 1 or 2 kilometre spacing, just depending on the density of the horticulture, or the value of the horticulture, or the volunteer participation. But that grid is really informative. So we've found fruit fly in Sylvan and King Lake so far this year, as well as this Boranwood, Warrandyte, Templestowe, Park Orchards area. But having that warning means that I can get alerts out to those who haven't yet got it, and they can start to elevate their fruit fly prevention program. So that's what the use of traps is that monitoring.
How often do you replace the traps or refuel the traps?
So anything liquid, depending on the temperature. And like if it's a hot, dry summer, this one here or the homemade ones, I would be replacing as needed. So you can buy replenishing liquid for that, or you can make your own.
Yep.
But the whole idea is to drown them. So if it's going to get thick and gloggy, you're not going to catch a fruit fly. With the male lures, every 3 months. And with the protein, every 3 months as well. I think check the labels on your products that you do buy. It will tell you how often to do it.
Yep.
But I think this one could be 8 weeks for a new sachet.
Okay.
So you just replace the sachet, not the whole thing?
That's probably a question for the manufacturer. I don't use that one for my surveillance. I use a form of the male fruit fly for the surveillance work that I do. But with any chemical or with any trap or anything that you use, always read the instructions. Fit for purpose.
Yep.
So if you know something's coming and if you know it's in your area, let someone else know. Like the first thing Kirsty did was go and tell, well, other than when we found out that it was, but went and told the nursery, the local schools.
Yeah.
Got other people to look out for it. The community gardens.
Is it worth telling councils? I know sometimes councils sometimes are interested, sometimes aren't, but it's still worth telling them anyway.
I would, because it makes awareness about the issue. And if they are aware that this is an issue in your area and this is an important thing for you as a home local food producer, I'd 100% tell council.
Yeah, so I think
they might not like me for saying that, but the more people that know about it, the better.
A lot of councils support community gardens, so why wouldn't they want to know?
I think they do want to know. I just don't think they have the capacity to handle that volume of calls. Like councils don't have a lot of money.
Right.
Their resources are very stretched.
Sure.
So maybe if you put your hand up and volunteer at the same time as telling them.
No, I think it's just good that they know. Like
Yeah.
it's just maybe they can't do anything straight away, but if enough people tell them, like if one person tells a council anything, and I do a lot in the space of waste, you might get their attention. But if a second person tells them, a third person tells them, then all of a sudden it's like, hang on a minute, there's something going on. So I do think it is worth telling councils, even if you feel it's frustrating. If enough do, if there are 10 community gardens all saying to council, hey, you'll get their attention.
Yeah.
You will.
So in the Yarra Ranges, if I notify the Yarra Ranges that there's a fruit fly at X location, they send a pre-drafted letter that they and I have worked on together to all the houses within 2 kilometres of our detection. So that means that we try and get everyone's attention to say, hey, there could be fruit fly. Please go out and have a look. If you do find it, this is who you call, and be aware that you need to harvest your fruit, destroy any fruit that might be infested with freezing or boiling, and these are the people that you can call for help. So that's an initiative of the Yarra Ranges as part of our project, but it's not in other councils.
Okay. Maybe even time it will be.
I'm sure if there's enough of a problem and this affects enough people, I think there will be a movement. And we've got to protect that local food production.
Yeah.
This is really important. How many people over COVID planted tomatoes? Or planted food in their garden?
Yeah.
For the first time.
And then in Greensboro and Eltham and Montmorency, their whole crop just got wiped out because there was fruit fly there. But they hadn't planted tomatoes there for 30 years, and 28 years ago, for the last 28 years, it wasn't a problem. So it just such a waste if that fruit gets full of maggots and not gets harvested. I know how hard it is to grow tomatoes when you want to grow them.
When I lost my peaches, like, this is our biggest harvest ever,
Yeah.
right? And we were so looking forward to enjoying every single peach. And then after that, we went and we bought a peach, an organic peach, thinking, and it wasn't bad, but it was not like what we had at home. So yeah, it is absolutely worth protecting.
Yeah.
Karen said here, pass along this information to your Facebook community telephone line. Like Facebook groups, let people know.
The grapevine.
Put it out through the vehicles that are there.
Most suburbs have a community Facebook page where you can post that information. So if you find, for my area of the Yarra Range, someone recently found a paralysis tick. Not going to affect your garden, but it'll affect you and your pets.
Yeah.
And immediately that went up. A lot of people knew that they needed to update the prevention for their animals. So same thing with the fruit fly. If you find them in your garden or your vegetables or your neighbours, get on your Facebook page and let your local community know. Even if your council doesn't have the capacity to do the letter outs, you can still let as many people as you know, and they can let their people know.
Yeah.
And use your Facebook pages and use social media for something, a bit more beneficial.
Yep. And I think that's a really good point, because I was fortunate that I knew somebody who I could reach out to. But if I didn't know what I could do, right? Because with other fruit that's kind of, maybe something else is eaten it, like a bird's half eaten it, I'd put it in my compost.
Yeah, no.
I knew I was going to get a reaction.
Thank you.
I knew.
I haven't said that yet.
Because that is absolutely the worst. The best way to keep fruit fly on your property forever is to compost it.
Yes.
Yes, is that
So
what I'm saying?
inside of that compost bin, you've got that life cycle completing itself. So I can actually show you a photo of the life cycle of a fruit fly. Can you capture that?
So do you want to talk us around, Bron?
So these are the eggs in the fruit. These are the larvae. So hatching out of the eggs, and they're maturing. And also the fruit is decomposing at this stage as well.
Yeah, it's like a mush.
Yeah, and that's their food source. But then it gets too rotten and too detrimental for them to be in there, and they get to their largest size, their 30 and stuff. And here they jump out of the fruit and they skip. They put their head to their tail and they bend in half and they flick or jump.
Oh, wow.
And that's them escaping away from danger, like a possum or a bird, or chickens will get into them and eat them then.
I actually remember it. That was a test that you did.
Yeah.
That was a test. She was playing with them like they were toys and they were jumping, and that's how she was pretty sure it was before DNA.
And so when they bury themselves in the ground, or even in some corflute of the cardboard, or a crevice in a stick, or even a timber pellet, that's when they pupate. So their skin on the outside hardens, and inside here a wonderful thing happens. It's a bit like the very hungry caterpillar. This is where they change from that grub into the fly. So this in the Yarra Ranges can take just over 2 weeks. Shorter in warmer regions like the northern regions. And then this majestic, colourful young insect will jump out. She's very bright when he and she is first emerged.
That's larger than they actually are, aren't they? Like
they're not that big. We tried to get one before.
Yeah, we showed
it's a lot small. Yeah. So we showed size before. But the colours will fade and the wings will get a bit beaten up by the end of the season. But that whole life cycle is amplified inside of a compost bin. So that's why the recommendations are to freeze or boil that produce. And if you don't have enough room in your freezer, put some in your freezer and some on the stove.
And what about a microwave? Would that do the trick?
Yeah. You can hear them spatting like bacon in the microwave. Goodness. But destroy it with heat, extreme heat or extreme cold. And it's not just for 20 minutes in the freezer. It's like it's frozen solid.
So how many days? Or
Well, if I was to give you 2 apples, they're probably freeze in your freezer in 12 to 24 hours. But if I gave you a carton of apples, your freezer would take a much longer time to
Have
get
that
the center
critical
core
mass, yeah.
of that frozen. So I can't tell you how long.
can I ask, if somebody did get that amount of fruit and they just could not freeze it, or just what could they do if they just weren't a capacity to?
So you can solarize it. That it has to be a lot warmer than today's skies for that intensity of that solar radiation and that sealed container to actually cause that death of the larvae inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I would batch it, like batch process it, and then putting it into the rubbish bin is another one. So sealed bag and into the rubbish bin.
Not the green waste?
Not if it's not treated.
Okay. So definitely. I'm just trying to prove a point. Make it reinforce it.
Not if it's not treated. And the same. Look, we are encouraged to say bin it and bag it, but that's a lot of plastic and that's a lot of waste and there's a lot of nutrition in that space. So it's on you. If you can successfully destroy it with freezing or boiling to the point where it's beyond recognition and there is no chance of survival, only then could you compost it. But it's really hard to say that because you want to make sure it's completely dead.
So if in doubt, chuck it out.
If in doubt, chuck it out.
We had a question here. Will the traps kill native bees?
No, not a lot. I mean, you could have a look at the one that Kirsty's had in her yard for just a little while now. It's some
3 months.
flies and some island flies. The native bees aren't really attracted to those proteins.
Yep.
So there's very specific protein. Native bees are more attracted to a pollen type protein and the colour and shape of the flowers.
So Giovanni says, I feed the no good fruit to the sheep.
Really good move. It's a numbers game and you're absolutely reducing the numbers. How many sheep have you got?
Kind of none. What about
So,
chickens?
Chickens are really good. Like any biological system, nothing's perfect. So they become part of your multi-pronged approach.
What if you drop them in a bucket of water and let them rot? Will that work? And then compost them?
Really good if you can keep them underwater for long enough because they'll crawl up the side of the bucket to escape out of that. So if you can keep a lid on it, you're going to create this fermentation chamber, much like making a cider. So if you can create that chamber, that sealed lid, and have a like the CO2 release valves, like for making cider, you can keep them in there. I think it's probably 3 or 4 days at 24 degrees with reducing oxygen conditions. You can kill your larvae then, and they can probably drink it as well.
Okay. Giovanni's just said, I have 12 sheep. Okay, buddy. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go easy. Go easy.
Yeah.
12 sheep. That's rubbing it in.
Yeah.
That's not urban. I hope.
But it's not an urban pest. It's a peri-urban and a rural pest as well. It's a pest for everyone.
Good stuff.
So good stuff with your sheep.
Yeah.
Those fruit fly will not survive the sheep's stomach or cows or horses.
So in that bucket, you really need like a sleeve inside the bucket that fits just inside
to push
that
them
you
under.
can weight down, and then it prevents them crawling up the side.
Yes.
And brick on the top. And
Yeah, I'd prefer a sealed chamber. I think
Sealed
it's probably safer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the cider making kits might be bang on there.
Old metal bathtub in the sun covered.
Can you seal it?
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
these are creepy little critters. They
Yep.
will get themselves into any crevice, nook or cranny that they can, because that's what instinctively they're doing for survival.
See, Annie? Annie's in New York. She said it's
Hopefully no
11:55.
fruit fly.
Yeah, I'll finish watching tomorrow. Yeah, no, I think we're almost done, Annie. You're queuing the wrap. We've been.
Let me know if there's
been
ever any fruit
fantastic.
fly in New York.
Yeah.
Is there even a tree in there?
Yeah, look, they've got some Mediterranean fruit fly over in America,
Oh.
and they have sterile flies in California where they release the bred, mature, sterile flies, and then they go and breed with the wild flies that are out there, and it crashes the population because they're infertile. So that's a really good initiative. Australia is looking into that. We've got some sterile Queensland fruit fly trials underway at the moment. They're still evaluating it. But that's a good hope.
Yeah.
That's the bugs for bugs solution.
Yeah.
But we can't wait. We've just got to. Yes.
We have to do this area-wide management. We have to use all of these tools that we have in the meantime, because that sterile fruit fly release is better at low populations. So if it's out of control by the time it's ready for use,
It's too late.
it's going to be a long journey back to being fruit fly free or nearly fruit fly free.
Yeah.
So you were asking me before, Costa, about sprays and cover sprays and biologicals and stuff. If we don't control this pest and we get to the point where we're using a broad spectrum chemistry, cover spray, like spray that covers everything, it's not targeted. And it's really not going to help all those biologicals, all those really good insects in our backyards or in our production systems. So it is an option. It's out there to control fruit fly, but there's a lot that comes as a cost of using that.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the ideas is to use a targeted fruit fly bait. You ever seen this one before?
No.
I'll open it up. I think we have a really energetic family behind us in the neighbouring house. So this is thick, gooey, smells like Vegemite.
Does.
It's got insecticide, so you don't want to smell it.
Oh, okay.
It's an organic insecticide. It's spinosad, but still, we want to be safe when we're handling chemicals. So that fruit fly bait, that gets mixed with water, usually 6 parts water to 1 part fruit fly bait. And if you've got a pressure pack or a knapsack, if you put that out on the leaves around the foliage in your property, not on your fruit, but just on those leaves, the female fruit fly in particular, and all those young males that are really, really hungry for protein, they'll go into that bait and eat that, ingest that and die. So regular weekly baiting, repeated after rain, is a targeted way that we can use chemistry to knock the population, but not all of those beneficial biologicals in our gardens, because we're not covering everything. And they're not attracted to those proteins. Only the fruit fly are.
Are there any beneficials that would combat the fruit flies in backyards?
There are
Good
some
question.
parasitic wasps. So these parasites can locate, I don't know how they do it actually, they can locate the fruit fly larvae in the fruit that's infested. And they've got a longer egg laying tube or ovipositor than the fruit fly. And they can actually get that in there, lay their eggs inside the Queensland fruit fly larvae. The Queensland fruit fly larvae don't survive, but the parasitic wasps do.
Wow.
So this is all, it's right throughout sort of that northeastern Australia area, but the research is being done at the moment to see if we can get these in Victoria. So the jury's still out, the research is still being done, but that's the answer to your question. There are some, but obviously they haven't kept up with all the fruit flies about, otherwise we wouldn't have fruit fly. We need a lot more of them.
We do.
Mass produce them. Get them out there.
Find out what else they might do first.
Wow. Well, I'll throw it to the audience for any final questions. What a fantastic session. Big thanks to the three of you. I can't fit everyone in
Yeah, we can
the
bunch
frame.
up.
Yeah, bunch up. Yeah, there we go.
You should have
What a
known me,
team.
surely.
What a team. Big thanks. So if anyone's got any final questions for the team, please put them up. Otherwise, if you have anything else for anyone on the replay, please feel free to put your questions up there and everyone will jump on over the next couple of days and just answer any questions that you may have. Can we get a look at the book cover? Yeah, sure. And remember, you can jump online and get a copy of all this information. But
so this is a book, but it is available online, the PDF copy of it. And if you can't find that PDF version, I'm sure I can send the links through to Costa and Kirsty. Yeah.
or you can drop it on the
Yeah.
in the comments.
on the back, the one to follow.
No, they're the producers.
Ah.
But yeah, I can get a PDF version of that because that's no longer in production.
Uh-huh.
It's aimed at fruit growers or vegetable growers, actually. So more the commercial size growers. It's not really a backyard book, but it's got some useful resources.
But what we could do is go back and you can tag your Facebook page. So
Sure.
you can send a message through Facebook for everybody to go. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
So a lot of these resources I've got on my website. So that's fruitflyfreeyv.com.au. And there's also a lot of resources at the Agriculture Victoria website. And if you go to their link onto the Queensland Fruit Fly, there's heaps of those resources there.
PJD said, do they sting native finger limes or Tahitian limes?
Yes and yes.
Oh,
So they're a citrus category, even those native limes. Citrus.
still whacking them.
Yep, they'll get into the riper ones at that
Yes.
changing colour, not necessarily the green ones, but they will lay the eggs, and that pithy layer is where the fruit fly like to sit in the citrus.
Well,
How many people are watching, Costa? Sorry.
it's a bit hard to tell.
Ah. There's loads of questions. They're awesome.
Yeah. Teach them to ride on the back of cane toads.
That's probably how they got here. No, we need
Thanks,
something to
Kate.
go that way. Something to send them back to Queensland.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So, like I say, if there's Kirsty's just put up the Facebook page, so you can jump on and follow the Facebook page. They're all there. It's there now. PJ says thank you very much, everyone. We're all now fruit fly extraordinaires. Incredibly informative and lasting info for all gardeners alike. Thank you all
Awesome.
for your time.
You smashed it.
Awesome. Well, we're a team. We're a team.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
a
for
wonderful
coming.
session.
Thank you for coming to Kirsty's backyard.
Yeah. And to everyone watching and to anyone on the replay, feel free to share this because the more people see it, then the more they can play their role in stopping one becoming 2,000 and 2,000 becoming 20,000 and 20,000 becoming 100,000 and those sort of algorithms that we don't want as gardeners and as lovers of fresh, local, chemical-free, organic food.
Yummy.
All right. Well, one last comment. Yes, sad to hear they are now in New South Wales. When we were young, we weren't allowed to take fruit into New South Wales. Thanks for all the great info, you guys. Thanks. Very interesting. Thanks everyone for joining in. And thank you for a great session.